Hi everyone, welcome to another video, and today, of course you can see by the title, this is a few fragrances that I've got written down, which I don't normally rebuy that often. I know my like most favourite stuff, because I generally reach for those more than anything else, of course. And this year I might get some of these back. Now I've got a list of 5. Unfortunately 2 of them have just been discontinued, so I'm really looking at 3, aren't I? Which is a shame. So like I said, I tend to try and not rebuy if it's something I like but it's not my highest favourite stuff, like my signature scent or something like that, or whatever it be. My ultimate sort of top 10, if you will, are the ones I will rebuy generally, but sometimes I fancy a fragrance I haven't had for a while but I haven't got it. So certainly these 3, the ones that aren't discontinued, are in sort of that top 10, top 20 sort of area, and the other 2 I would have them in my collection again, but sadly discontinued. So we'll get on with the 2 discontinueds. Now the 2 discontinueds I would love to have back in my collection, and they're both from the house of Killian. I was going to say Healey then, it's not Healey. Or by Killian Hennessy. 2 Killian fragrances, and they was brought out special to an area for a very short period, or a reason being sort of linked to that area, and then it was everywhere. So one of them was apple brandy, and I don't mean you can get apple brandy on the rocks now. I don't know what that's like, but the original sort of apple brandy when that come out, that was really nice. It was like a spicy apple sort of smell. It was really, really nice. Very expensive, of course. They're not as expensive as they are now, the Killians, but really, really nice. Very, very thick and rich. Certainly not what it would probably like if it was still around, the way they build fragrances now. And the other one was, I think like a US one, for like the New York apple sort of thing. The other one was for more for the UK, more so sort of Scotland, and that was single malt. A single malt again. That was so beautiful. Spicy, malty, tonka bean, all that kind of stuff. It was really, really nice. Again, that's discontinued, unfortunately. I can't get hold of that. I could probably get it if I looked at eBay and stuff, but I ain't going to pay the prices that's bound to be. Not only are they expensive anyway, but if they're discontinued, no, it ain't going to be a price I'm willing to pay for. So unfortunately, those are the 2 that I would actually love to get my hands on, but they don't do them anymore. So next is James Healey, and I think, for me personally, for what I've smelt so far, now I haven't smelt, there's a cologne something or other from James Healey. That's one of them I haven't tried, which is on my sort of to buy list. But the one I really want back in my collection from the James Healey fragrances is the Oranges and Lemons Cellar Bells of St Clements, is the full name. I just call it Oranges and Lemons. Really, really enjoy that one. If you like Acqua di Parma Colonia, it's very similar to that. I would say Acqua di Parma Colonia is more on the soapier side. Oranges and Lemons by Healey has got a soapiness to it for sure, but it's got a hell of a lot more sort of citrusy as well. Those like say oranges and so on. So Healey's Oranges and Lemons are definitely one that I would happily have back in the collection, and I believe I will this year at some point. So one I haven't had for quite a while. I remember within the first year or two of doing YouTube, so we're looking back at somewhere between 2012 and 2014, maybe even 15. I had a full 100ml bottle of Tobacco Rouge. And at the time it was said to be like a rival to Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, and it sort of was. It smelled similar, but Tobacco Rouge had more of the sweetness in there come from more of like a honey like sweetness than it did like a vanilla. It still had Tobacco Rouge, still had tobacco vanilla, but the added sweetness was, you had a hint of like a honey vibe to it, really thick and sticky stuff. Again, I don't know what today's formula is like, so I might actually try a sample before I get that back. But that is one in the collection that I was thinking of getting back for more towards the winter, obviously, because it's more of a winter type scent. But that's one I would like to have back in the collection, but I'm going to sample it first. It's bound to have been reformulated by now, so you never know. Okay, and last one on the list, which wouldn't be any surprise if you watch my channel for a while, and that's Mansera's Cydrat Brussois, whatever. And it's not the intense, just the original EDP. I've gone through 2 bottles of that, and I haven't had a bottle for a while. And it is one that if it's not in my collection sitting on the shelf, I do miss it. I do reach for that a lot if I've got it. I go through a bottle of that quite quick if I have one. So that's why I tend to try and resist buying another one for a while. But I think this year it's probably going to be a bottle of that. And I would say this is like a bonus. I would go and have a bottle of Creed Virgin Island water. I really love Virgin Island water, but they've done the classic thing of like you get food now, right, or chocolate bars or whatever. They charge you the same, if not a bit more, but they give you less, and that's what Creed's done. They've reduced their 125ml bottle to 100, and now they're charging like 50% more than what they used to. So although I'd really would love a bottle of Virgin Island water, it's my favourite Creed, absolutely love that lime and coconut vibe, it's beautiful stuff. I'm not prepared to pay more than I used to for less. Their prices have gone stupid, and so that was a sort of little bonus one. I only really just thought of it. Would like that back. I'm not prepared to pay the price. And even like the Killian ones, if they was still available, the Killian's prices, like a lot of the fancy ones like that, are just ridiculous. Yeah. The Healey ones are still about 120, which they was a while ago. And Tobacco Rouge is about 100, I think, 120 or so for 100ml. So those prices for those two especially are pretty good. And with the Mansera, you can find it anywhere between I think about 65 to about £80. Depends if there's sales and so on. So that's still the same discounted price as it's really always been. So that's the fragrances that I want sort of back in my collection. Let me know in the comment section anything you've been sort of pining for, that you haven't had any collection of for a while, and you wish you would really just spend it and have it. But if you're like me, I like to buy things I haven't yet had, but I'm still pining for those certain ones to be back in the collection. So if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, if you really help me out, and see you again soon on the next one.